Queen Noor of Jordan was on everyone's lips in the 80s and 90s, but we haven't heard much about her lately because Jordan's first lady, Queen Rania, has overshadowed her. Where is Queen Noor today, and why did she leave Jordan? In this video, I will tell the incredible story of an American woman who unexpectedly fell in love with the King of Jordan and became a queen herself. The Hashemite royal family has ruled Jordan since 1921. The most prominent ruler from this family was King Hussein bin Talal, who was on the throne for 47 years, almost half a century until 1999. He was known not only for his great political successes, but also for his stormy personal life. According to some sources, the king was married 4 times and had some relationships outside of marriage. But his most beloved wife was Lisa Najib Halabi, known today as Queen Noor. They married when Lisa was still an ordinary American student, and King Hussein already had much life experience. However, despite the significant difference in age and upbringing, this marriage was the longest and happiest in the king's life. They were married for 21 years, until the king's death, and raised 4 children together. Furthermore, Queen Noor was not just the wife of the king and the mother of his children, but also a crucial figure in the country. She was emerged as a prominent philanthropist and activist in Jordan and worldwide. A regular American woman managed to gain the love and trust of the Jordanian people. She never imagined herself ascending to the throne and lived a life she never anticipated. Her life was marked by unforeseen twists, palace intrigues, and most importantly, a deep love for her husband. This is what makes this woman's story truly remarkable. The future Queen of Jordan, Lisa Najib Halabi, was born in Washington, D.C., U.S. in 1951. She was the eldest child in her family, with a brother and a sister. Her mother, Doris Karlquist, was Swedish-American, and her father, Najib Halabi, was of Syrian descent and was a prominent figure as an American businessman, government official, and aviator. He is known for making the first transcontinental jet flight in American history and his service as chairman of Pan Am from 1969 to 1972. The grandparents of the future Queen Noor were from the Syrian city of Aleppo. It is known that the great-grandfather of the future Queen Noor, Elias Halabi, came to New York around 1891. He was one of the earliest Syrian-Lebanese immigrants to the United States. He was a Christian and had been a provincial treasurer. He left Ottoman Syria with his 2 eldest sons, who later completely assimilated into American society. Although she was born and raised in America, Lisa always remembered her Arab roots, which later helped her gain the trust of the Jordanian people and embrace Arab culture. Despite being a commoner without royal roots, Lisa came from a successful family. Her father held a high position in the U.S. government, serving as an aide to the United States Secretary of Defense in the Truman administration before being appointed by President John F. Kennedy to head the Federal Aviation Administration. Noor's paternal grandfather was a Syrian-Lebanese businessman who worked as a petroleum broker. In the mid-1920s, he opened Halabi Galleries, a rug boutique and interior decorating shop in Dallas, Texas. This family was very wealthy and held a high position in society. However, despite this, none of them could have imagined that one day they would become related to the royal family of Jordan. How could an ordinary American girl meet the King of Jordan himself and make him fall in love with her? When Lisa Najib Halabi met the King of Jordan, she was well educated and had a successful career. She attended New York and California schools before enrolling at Princeton University in 1969. Princeton, one of the most prestigious universities in America, began admitting female students that year, including the future Queen of Jordan. Despite initially feeling like outsiders, the female students thrived in that environment, developing strong character and achieving success in the future. Former classmates remember Lisa Najib Halabi standing out among all the students. "Even if you didn't know her, you knew about her," said Princeton classmate Marjorie Gindler Smith, herself a standout athlete in that pioneering class. Everyone took notice. Since those years, she began to fight for people's rights. As a student, she went to a civil rights protest at Fort Dix and was met with tear gas. This pushed her to fight for justice not only in the United States but around the world. After graduating from Princeton University, Lisa Halabi moved to Australia and worked with a company that planned new cities. Due to her Syrian roots, she had a special interest in the Middle East. Just a year later, she took a job with a company that was designing a model capital city center in Tehran, Iran. Lisa also attended Columbia University's Graduate School of Journalism and conducted research work at an aviation company in Amman at the same time. She eventually became the director of facilities planning and design at Alia Airlines, a Jordanian airline founded by royal decree of King Hussein and named after his eldest daughter, Princess Alia. So it was thanks to her work in this company that Lisa Halabi met the King of Jordan. However, their first meeting occurred while King Hussein was still married to his third wife, Queen Alia, in the winter of 1976. At the time, Lisa Halabi was a 25-year-old student accompanying her father to a ceremony in Jordan. She first saw King Hussein at Amman airport through her camera lens, an experience she details in her autobiographical book, Leap of Faith: Memoirs of an Unexpected Life. As you know, Lisa's father had a prominent role in the aviation industry and served as the chairman of the International Advisory Board for the Jordanian airline. This connection allowed him to know King Hussein and to earn respect in the royal family. One day, King Hussein saw him at the airport and greeted him. Lisa's father asked her to take a photo of him and the king, and she obediently did so. This was the first time she met King Hussein, but it wasn't love at first sight, as the king was already married to his third wife, Queen Alia. At that moment, the young woman was thinking about something completely different. She was impressed by her trip to Jordan and was very glad that she had finally returned to the homeland of her ancestors. However, just a year later, King Hussein's beloved wife, Queen Alia, died in a helicopter crash in Amman. Without waiting for the end of mourning, the king immediately remembered the young and sweet American woman who worked at his airline. Their relationship began, which completely changed Lisa Halabi's life. The 26-year-old American was fascinated by the king, who was 42 years old at that time, had been unsuccessfully married 3 times, and had several children. How could these people from different worlds be together? As a young girl, Lisa Halabi learned about King Hussein long before visiting Jordan, her ancestors' homeland. She first heard about the king while she was still a student at Princeton. Her parents had an audience with the monarch of Jordan and were fascinated by him. King Hussein was a big fan of aviation and was well aware of the importance of his airline, which connected his country with the whole world. Of course, he was glad that Najib Halabi, an outstanding aviator, worked in his country. That's why Lisa's parents received such a warm welcome in Jordan. After an audience with the king, Lisa's mother showed her the brooch that the king had given her and described it as follows. "He has," she said, "the most beautiful kind eyes." When King Hussein's third wife, Queen Alia, died in a helicopter accident in 1977, he knew he had to move on with his life, so he started dating Lisa just 3 months after the death of his wife. She was well-educated, smart, successful in her career, and incredibly beautiful. At 26 years old, she seemed to be an ideal match for the king. Despite her American origin, she had Arab roots, which was advantageous. In April 1977, Lisa's father arranged a meeting between her and the king, during which King Hussein invited Lisa to the palace to offer her input on some design issues. They had lunch together, and a week later, the king invited her to Aqaba for a weekend. They spent time with mutual friends and King Hussein's children, which marked the beginning of their regular meetings. They enjoyed activities like watching movies, riding helicopters and motorcycles, and having deep conversations. Their relationship started as a simple friendship while the king was still mourning the death of his wife. However, over time, this friendship grew into sincere love. King Hussein met with Lisa's father a year later and proposed to her. The young American woman was flattered by the king's attention and felt great empathy for him from their first meeting. However, she was embarrassed by the fact that the king was 16 years older and had been married 3 times already. "I will not deny that the idea of being his 4th wife or anybody's 4th wife was troubling to me," Noor wrote in her 2003 autobiography Leap of Faith. The young woman had many doubts. She understood that becoming the king's wife was a great responsibility and that this step would completely change her life. Additionally, all 3 of the king's previous marriages ended unsuccessfully. King Hussein first married Princess Dina in his youth, an Egyptian-born 3rd cousin of his father. However, the marriage was not happy because it was arranged. The couple could not fall in love with each other, and just a year later they broke up. After this, King Hussein decided that he would only marry for love and only to a woman he chose. A few years later, he married an ordinary Englishwoman, Toni Gardiner, who became known as Princess Muna. She bore him 4 children, but their love faded over time. 3 days after the divorce, the king married Alia Tukan, commonly known as Queen Alia. But just 5 years later, she died tragically. It seemed that the king wasn't at all lucky in love. Imagine the difficult choice facing 26-year-old Lisa Halaby. She would take on royal duties and become the mother of the king's children from a previous marriage: 4-year-old Princess Haya, 3-year-old Prince Ali, and adopted 6-year-old Abir. Therefore, when Lisa Halaby said yes to his proposal, her life changed forever. Before her marriage, Lisa accepted her husband's Sunni Islam religion, and upon the marriage changed her name from Lisa Halaby to the royal name Noor al-Hussein, which means Light of Hussein. The future queen also studied several books about Islam and Islamic traditions. It's worth noting that Lisa's parents didn't raise her with any specific religion, allowing her to choose her own faith. It's interesting to note also that according to the Jordanian constitution, the king's wife isn't required to be a Muslim. However, the bride decided that she would embrace the religion of her husband and the people. After all, the king chose to bestow upon her the honorable title of queen, and she wanted to fully embrace the responsibilities entrusted to her. Their wedding took place in 1978 in Zaran Palace in Amman. It was a traditional Muslim ceremony attended by about 500 friends and relatives. Among the guests were mainly the Jordanian elite of society and one of the king's former wives, Princess Muna. The bride was happy, dressed in a white Christian Dior wedding gown, and had a women's band of white flowers holding her long blonde hair in place. A traditional Islamic ceremony is an event where the bride and groom sign a contract before witnesses. They also exchanged vows. Then the couple approached the guests and cut a huge 7-tier cake with a saber. After that, they got into a silver Mercedes 600 limousine and drove away to applause from the guests. Overall, the event was low-key, and Amman had no major celebrations that day. The king and queen did not want to attract too much attention to themselves. In addition, perhaps the royal court feared that the people of Jordan might not accept the fact that their new queen was an American. Indeed, the country initially treated the king's new wife with distrust, but in the end she was accepted with love, largely because the royal family constantly emphasized Queen Noor's Arab origins, and also because the new queen always strictly adhered to local traditions and actively participated in the country's life. After marrying, 27-year-old Noor's life completely changed. She took on great responsibility by becoming the wife of the most powerful man in the Middle East at the time, a stepmother to his 3 children from a previous marriage, and also assumed the role of queen. Noor didn't want to be just an ornament to the Jordanian palace and a companion to her husband. Instead, she became seriously involved in social work and became one of the most prominent philanthropists in the world. Accustomed to spending a lot of time alone, she had to change her habits because her duties as queen meant that she would have to spend a lot of time in society. The queen started to travel frequently and meet different people. The newlyweds had to start working almost immediately after the wedding, so they could not fully enjoy their honeymoon. However, they cherished every moment they were able to spend together. Everyone around them noticed that they seemed very happy together, looked at each other lovingly, and laughed a lot. But was it easy for Queen Noor to become the stepmother of 3 children from Hussein's previous marriage? "This is the easiest part of my new life and responsibilities," she said with a broad smile when reporters asked her this question. "I love them and get on well with them. I think they do with me. They are so wonderfully spontaneous that sometimes, when I feel overwhelmed or claustrophobic, just to see them brings a smile to my face and makes me feel free. I'm very lucky to have them, for they are so rewarding, in a way perhaps that I don't deserve." After her marriage to the king, Noor, as she revealed, began calling Jordan her new home. "I never felt American when I married," she told the people after her return to the US in 1980. "America was a place where I grew up, studied, and developed a foundation for living. It's not that I am rejecting America, but I've always felt at home in Jordan. I felt from the start I belonged here. This is my country." Queen Noor felt united with the Jordanian people, but thanks to her American upbringing, she had the courage to do what other wives of kings in the Middle East had not done before her. She began to speak out on political issues. Since the start of her marriage, Queen Noor has been outspoken on a range of controversial issues such as the Israel-Palestinian conflict and women's education and rights. She has always been a supporter of Palestinian rights. "As an American returning to the land of my ancestors, the Arab world, I did find myself being drawn into a position of trying to be a bridge to understanding," Queen Noor said. Many of her initiatives were received with skepticism at first. The queen was too young and beautiful, and it was difficult for people then to take her seriously. For example, reporters failed to ask her meaningful questions during her first visit to Washington as queen, and instead focused on her hair and fashionable clothes. "I hoped to be taken as a credible voice with serious matters to discuss," she wrote in her autobiography. I could not help but feel like a useless accessory. Despite skepticism from those around her, King Hussein fully supported her initiatives, which gave her much strength to confidently continue her work. In 1979, Queen Noor established the King Hussein Foundation, which comprised the Queen Noor Foundation and 8 specialized institutions addressing key public issues in Jordan. Noor has also emerged as a global humanitarian and vocal proponent of international understanding, conflict prevention and recovery issues such as refugees, missing persons, poverty alleviation, climate change, and disarmament. She has consistently prioritized environmental concerns and their link to human security, emphasizing water and ocean health. At the same time, she pursued progressive reforms such as the economic empowerment of Bedouin women and raised eyebrows among some Jordanians by tooling around tousled-haired on the back of Hussein's motorcycle. The Queen's Jackie Kennedy-like image outside of Jordan raised the country's visibility. This sometimes made the country's diplomatic community uneasy. Her unique diplomatic style helped shape Jordan's global reputation as a stable and modern country and an important ally of the U.S. King Hussein's marriage to Queen Noor was the happiest of his life. Despite his previous reputation as a playboy in his youth, he finally found his true love. 2 years after their wedding, Queen Noor gave birth to their first child, a son named Prince Hamza. In total, King Hussein and Queen Noor had 4 children, 2 sons, Prince Hamza and Prince Hashem, and 2 daughters, Princess Iman and Princess Rania. But the happy life of this family collapsed in an instant when doctors gave King Hussein a terrible diagnosis, blood cancer, in 1998. While the king received treatment at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, his brother Hassan, who had served as regent since 1965, took over state affairs. Throughout this difficult time while the king was undergoing treatment, his wife Noor was by his side. Finally, for the first time in 20 years of marriage, Hussein put aside his responsibilities and was completely free from his duties. Queen Noor later admits in one of her interviews that the 6 months they spent together were the best of their lives since their wedding. They drove around the countryside by car, went to bookstores, and walked through the forest. These moments meant much more to us than ever before, knowing that each one was God's gift, she said. Noor prayed every day for a miracle so that her beloved husband would fully recover. My husband was still alive, and I was still praying for the miracle, believing that it could be God's will, she said. The king underwent 6 rounds of chemotherapy and at one point announced that he was completely cured. After treatment, the king returned to Jordan and continued to work. However, the disease progressed rapidly, and in January 1999 his condition became critical, indicating that he did not have long to live. The question of who would be the next king was crucial. Queen Noor may have dreamed that her eldest son, Prince Hamza, could become the heir to the royal throne. However, King Hussein had several children from his previous 3 marriages, creating a tense situation regarding succession. The king changed his decision about the heir several times due to political instability. In total, King Hussein changed his line of succession 4 times, from his brother Muhammad to his infant son Abdallah, to his second brother Abdallah, and initially to his then grown-up son Abdallah. So, during Hussein's illness, his brother Hassan was the regent, but returning home after treatment, Hussein was disappointed with how his brother conducted state affairs, so he announced a new heir. The king appointed his eldest son, then 36-year-old Prince Abdallah, who had strong support from the army, as the new king. Hussein also named his son Hamza as crown prince. Shortly after this decision, the king passed away. Although Hussein was happy to leave the throne to Prince Hamza, he was only 18 years old at the time. To make Hamza the heir outright would have required constitutional changes, because the monarch was allowed to appoint only a brother or the eldest son as his successor. It was said that if Hussein had died a week earlier, Hassan would have been king, said Schleim, the biographer, and that if he had died a week later, it might have been Hamza. There is little doubt that in raising Hamza, Noor groomed him as a potential monarch. Although Hamza was educated in the West, he was taught classical Arabic, unlike Abdallah, who spoke English with his British-born mother and later had difficulty speaking eloquently in his speeches. After the king's death, the entire nation plunged into mourning. Ordinary women on the streets of Jordan sobbed loudly and raised their hands to the sky. For Queen Noor, this was a huge loss in her life. She came to her husband's funeral without the usual makeup on her face. She wore a black dress and tied a white scarf around her head. The queen held back her tears. She inclined her head repeatedly to mourners, all in keeping with Jordanian custom, a consoler rather than the one consoled. After King Hussein passed away, his eldest son, Abdallah, born from his marriage to Princess Muna, was named the new king. According to the earlier promise, Queen Noor's eldest son, Prince Hamza, became the crown prince. Even though Abdallah's wife, Rania, was declared the new queen, Noor retained her royal title and still held a special position in Jordan. However, coexisting as two queens in one palace proved challenging. Rania started to make more public appearances, gradually overshadowing Noor. Noor intended to maintain her importance in Jordan and pass on power to her children, but her influence began to diminish unexpectedly. King Hussein's hasty passing prevented her from fully realizing the situation and taking control. She also didn't anticipate that King Abdallah would effectively govern the country during the initial years of his reign. Just 5 years after taking the throne, Abdallah removed the crown prince title from Hamza, claiming that it limited his freedom. However, it seems likely that this was to eliminate a potential competitor. Subsequently, Abdallah appointed his own son as his heir, further diminishing Queen Noor's influence. Despite continuing her role as queen and philanthropist, she was no longer as popular as Queen Rania. In recent years, Queen Noor began spending less time in Jordan and started considering England and the USA as her new homes. It can be assumed that this was a forced decision because Noor always called Jordan her home after her marriage to the king. She frequently stays in London and at her country residence, Buckhurst Park, near Wingfield in Berkshire, when in England. In the US, she typically spends time in Washington, D.C. In 2003, she published her memoirs, Leap of Faith, Memoirs of an Unexpected Life, recounting her love story with the King of Jordan. She now has more free time for activities like skiing, water skiing, tennis, sailing, horseback riding, reading, gardening, and photography, while also remaining active in various international organizations. Even after Hussein's death, Noor continued to do her job. She fought for peace, saved art, and protected the environment. She proved that this was indeed her life's work, which she truly loved, and not just a duty as the king's wife. It was important for her to retain her title as queen in order to continue advocating for the rights of the people. Undeniably, a woman with the title of queen significantly influences the world compared to others. In 2015, Queen Noor was honored with Princeton's Woodrow Wilson Award. The award is given to alumni who embody Wilson's commitment to world peace and service. During her speech, Queen Noor talked about her experience at Princeton as part of the first co-ed class. She also highlighted the ongoing inequalities faced by people in the Middle East. Queen Noor experienced another dramatic event in 2021 when her eldest son, Prince Hamza, was placed under house arrest. King Abdullah arrested his brother as part of a crackdown on criticism of the Jordanian government. According to him, Prince Hamza allegedly attended meetings with government critics. In 2022, Hamza publicly renounced his title as prince and apologized to the king. This event, of course, greatly disturbed Queen Noor, who loves her children very much. She once dreamed, perhaps, that her son could become a king, but today he is deprived of absolutely all titles. Hamza has been placed under house arrest, and his communication and movements are limited. The former prince denied all accusations, and the Queen Mother supported him. Some truly bizarre and stranger than fiction stuff circulating right now, Queen Noor wrote on Twitter. Also, she wrote, "Praying that truth and justice will prevail for all the innocent victims of this wicked slander. God bless and keep them safe." During this conflict, Noor publicly supported her son in every possible way. These are the words she addressed to him. "You are a free and noble Jordanian with all your heart. You are our prince. You are the eyes and the head. God bless you. I am enough, and he is the best steward of affairs for every person tried to distort your identity as a Jordanian people." Since his house arrest, the king has held Prince Hamza in his house in the western part of Amman without family visitation access beyond his wife and 6 children. Queen Noor could not see her son, which upset her greatly. Due to the situation, relations between King Abdullah's family and Queen Noor became strained. Queen Noor did not attend Crown Prince Hussein's wedding in June 2023, and it's unclear whether she was not invited or chose not to attend. This could be due to the complex situation as Crown Prince Hussein replaced former Prince Hamza. The lavish wedding was a deliberate move by the royal court to solidify Hussein as the undisputed heir to the throne, which might have disappointed Noor, who may have envisioned her son in that position. In March 2024, Queen Noor published photographs of her son Hamza in X. In the pictures, he is relaxing in nature with his son. The Queen accompanied these photos with her congratulations on his birthday. Today, Queen Noor is 72 years old and has 13 grandchildren. Even at her age, she continues to work, engage in social affairs, and captivate everyone with her elegant style. For example, in October 2023, she attended a dinner party in Venice, wearing an elegant 80s chiffon and bronze dress. Fashion lovers noted her impeccable taste and beautiful appearance. Noor continues to act as an advocate for people who suffer in military conflicts, particularly in Palestine and Ukraine. She often writes about her position on X. Queen Noor runs her own page on social networks as it is important for her to contact her audience. After the death of her husband, Queen Noor did not remarry, remaining faithful to her king. The 72-year-old queen continues to remember him with love and write touching posts in his honor. For example, she recently wrote in Arabic, "I would like to express my gratitude and pride for your noble gift and leadership. You have shown us that women can succeed despite challenges and make a strong, positive, and a lasting impact on society through determination, compassion, and humanity. You are an inspiring example for imitation." The love story of a Native American woman and a Jordanian king became an example of how people from different worlds fell in love with each other thanks to common goals and life views. They were destined to spend 20 happy years together until a terrible illness separated them forever.